Good afternoon. I don't think that any of us in good faith should just continue to sit by idle and offer our well wishes and thoughts and prayers to the people of Uvalde, Texas, because it's going to happen again and it's very predictable. I'm really moved by this one. I'm moved by all of these incidences of violence, but now I think I'm more moved by our commonplace responses. This is an election year. I know that doesn't mean very much to a lot of you, but now is an opportunity for even people that don't like politics and they don't like voting, and I totally get it. I think that solutions, when they become political, that's where solutions go to die, because you can't be commonsensical. You got to think about what your party wants, what your party's trying to do, what your party faithful and loyal voters are going to do. So you got to put all that stuff ahead of just plain old common sense. But if you're going to vote this August and then this November in Wisconsin, at least have a benchmark where you want to vote for someone who will do whatever they can in the position that they're in to prevent children from getting killed in a fourth grade classroom. Like, I can't even think about it. I can't conceptualize being in a classroom, because all the kids were killed in one classroom. And then one of the teachers that was killed, what's up, Vaughn, was killed because she tried to shield children from being shot at. Now, we can have a gun debate. We can talk about the Second Amendment, but all of that stuff is not going to happen overnight. All we need are 10 Republicans in the U.S. Senate to break a filibuster to move something. And it's just as simple as a background check. And listen, there's a whole bunch of guns that are already out there, that are already on the streets, that we're not going to do a lot about until somebody gets caught with them. Can't really do much about guns until somebody gets caught with one illegally, or if people decide they want to turn them in. So we can't do anything about the hundreds of millions of firearms that exist right now. We got to be very honest about that. So we lost that battle in trying to have less firearms on the street. We failed dramatically at that. But what we hopefully can do, I'm very serious about this, it's like my urgent plea, is to stop new purchases from people that should not have a firearm in the first place. That's number one. Number two, those of us that own firearms need to have a high level of responsibility, because in the event that there's some kind of legislation, or you make it a little bit more difficult for just a few people to get firearms, then guns are going to come at a very high premium, meaning stolen guns are going to be worth more money. And so there's going to be another opportunity for crime to escalate, because if you make it more difficult for people that shouldn't have a gun in the first place to get one, then the demand for stolen guns is, of course, going to increase, and we got to be mindful of that. Now, yesterday was in Texas, but what if it's in Wisconsin? How would we feel? What if it was your high school, your elementary school? Or some of you are teachers, or some of you are married to teachers. What if it happened at your workplace? And I know that's a tall order because I'm asking you to essentially traumatize yourself to be able to relate to people. But we know it's going to happen again. It might be in a grocery store. It might be in a church. Like all of these places where innocent people are that aren't thinking that that's the last place they'll ever visit are getting killed. And the other thing is, this doesn't really happen in any other country. What other country can we point to that have predictable shootings in schools? I'm more focused on that because children are innocent. You know, there's incidents of, you know, somebody is disgruntled at work. And I'm not excusing any of that stuff. Like, I wish people knew how to talk their problems out, or, you know, if you're feeling stressed out, I don't know, take the day off of work to not deal with their problems by killing everybody. We can talk about culture. We can talk about video games. We can talk about music. All of those things we can discuss, but nobody's going to do anything about it. Like, at some point, don't we all have to draw a line and say, all right, that's it. That's enough. We're not doing this anymore. We're going to put our foot down. The problem is we only need 10 Republicans. And I saw a member of the U.S. Senate yesterday literally beg his colleagues on the other side of the aisle to do something. And what we're asking the Republicans to do is almost nothing, to do something that 90% of the people agree with, a damn background check. They're not even willing to do that. And because of how the rules are set up, we need 10 Republicans to join in with the Democrats to move any legislation forward. No, Joe Biden can't fix this. He can't just sign an executive order because the Second Amendment is so entrenched and so enshrined in what this country is. Like, it's in the basic framework of what created this nation. First Amendment, free speech. The very next amendment, you can have a gun. So Joe Biden can't do anything as far as an executive order goes where he can just fix the problem or take guns off of the street. He needs cooperation from Congress. But if children being murdered and their teachers being murdered, and I read somewhere that up to 20 people were injured. I don't know if they were confusing the numbers because a lot of the early information that came out was inaccurate. First it was 13 children hurt, then it was 14 killed, and now we know it's 19 children killed and then 2 teachers. So there might be as many as 20 other people who were injured. And if that's not enough to get 10 Republicans, the other 40 Republicans can just sit by and do nothing. They can worship Trump and hope they get reelected, even though there is some cracks in the Trump ceiling, that wall that I thought that Trump had built for himself politically. I thought that it was invincible, but because of what happened last night in Georgia, it looks like the Trumpism is falling a little bit. Good. 40 U.S. senators can literally just sit by and allow kids to get killed. And what's crazy is in those states in which these Republicans represent, people have been killed. Children have been killed. Adults have been killed. Innocent people have been killed because we won't do anything, even a background check. I had to pass a background check and they checked my credit score for me to get my day job. It was easier for me to get a firearm than it was to get a legitimate job. There's something that's wrong with that. And I'm not trying to tell people, you know, you can't own your guns because once you have them, it's really hard to take them away. In fact, you gotta commit a crime for them to take your guns away. We just need to make it a little bit more, like somewhat inconvenient for someone to go and purchase a gun. You know, there's a fee you have to pay for your background check when you go and buy a firearm. And those of you that have bought guns know what that's like. You got to fill out this paperwork. It's a bunch of yes/no questions that people answer the same way every single time. And then you got to pay a fee. Maybe we raise the fee. Maybe we make it a financial burden. But then if we did that, let's say we raised the fee for the background check to, I don't know, $500. Then people that don't have a lot of money saying, oh, you're trying to keep guns away from poor people. So then we can't do that. And then some group representing poor gun owners would probably sue. But we got to do something. This one affected me like Columbine did. Columbine was a long time ago. That was in 1999, April 20th, 1999. I should never forget that date. You shouldn't either. The seniors at Columbine High School are 40, 41 years old this year. Probably have elementary school children or middle school children themselves. And imagine them reliving what happened to them in 1999 when they were in high school, reliving it all over again. I thought that would have been the last one because Columbine, that was in Littleton, Colorado, and that school had cameras, which was way ahead of its time because I'm not sure. Well, it depends on where y'all went to school, I guess. But I was unaware of many high schools having cameras in their schools in the 90s. I know since then, there's cameras everywhere. You can't do anything, which is good. It keeps people in check if there's cameras all over the damn place. But somebody got a hold of the footage from the cameras at Columbine. Do you guys remember this? Maybe I'm the only one that remembers this because I was traumatized by it. They uploaded the video footage of the Columbine massacre in Littleton, Colorado to the internet. There used to be a file sharing service called LimeWire. There was a bunch of them. There was LimeWire, there was Kazaa, there was Napster. Napster was the first. LimeWire actually had the raw video footage of that school shooting, and everybody saw it. And I just knew then that would be a singularity, the only time a tragedy like that would happen. We have had hundreds since then. Hundreds. Since I've been on the air doing broadcast radio, what month is this? This is May. June will be 10 years for me. I've lost count of how many I've covered. How many school shootings that I've covered. But more often than not, it's a student at that school. Kathy says, let's not forget about the kids that saw that. Oh, they're going to be permanently damaged. There was an expose that I think CNN did on Where Are They Now, the Columbine students. Oh, they're so messed up. So they're in their late 30s, early 40s now, probably parents in their own right. A lot of them suffer from major depression and anxiety. This is the Where Are They Now and the Columbine students, because we never think about how the children that witness these events are going to be affected in the future. So first of all, how the hell do you even go back to school? If your child witnesses something like that, or they went to school where there was a mass shooting, and the child says, I don't want to go back to that place. How do you tell them, nope, you have to. You have to go back into a place where literally nobody and nothing can protect you, not even members of the House of Representatives and the U.S. Senate. No one can protect these kids, even people that have the power to do so. There's a lot this country can do. Like send $40 billion to Ukraine. We can do that. Doesn't take long for that. Congress will agree on that. But I wonder how that makes children safer here. So this expose they did on the Where Are They Now with the Columbine students, it's like this longitudinal study to see how kids are affected and impacted many, many years after they witness a traumatic event like a school shooting. So the Columbine adults, they're not children anymore, anxiety, depression, lots of alcoholics, lots of drug addicts, lots of suicides. It permanently messes people up. And I'd imagine a lot of them got counseling. Probably not enough because, in the 90s, we didn't really have a focus on mental health. As a matter of fact, if you needed mental health services back then, you were embarrassed to admit it because we just called people crazy. Oh, you're not tough enough. What do you mean you're sad and feeling kind of low? Oh, just stop feeling sorry for yourself. Just get out of bed. Now we have a little bit more sensitivity. I hope that we have a little bit more sensitivity to those that might be going through a mental health crisis, because now we see if we don't give people help, they're very, very dangerous, and they can be dangerous because guns are so easy to get. I'll admit to you, I'm torn. I don't want somebody coming and taking your guns away because you need them, right? Because you're going to be the good person with a gun. If somebody breaks into your house, boy, oh boy, you're going to be ready. That is the least likely scenario, that somebody breaks into your house, you're at home, you've got your gun cocked and ready, and you're ready to aim. That's a very unlikely scenario. What's more likely is that someone in your household will get that gun out of anger and frustration and harm themselves, or they will harm somebody else. Statistically now, I know not you guys are different. You guys all defy statistics. I know, I get it. but that is what's more likely to happen. But it's also so ingrained in who we are as a country. Guns represent a weird kind of freedom. And I don't know if we're going to be able to take that away. And it's in the movies, it's in the music. But I'm not, there's a name for those people that always blame the culture. I want people to be able to express themselves with music and art. And sometimes we don't like what we hear in music. Sometimes we don't like what we see in art. Sometimes we don't like the movies that people make. I still want people to be able to make those. But at the same time, there needs to be an explanation to people that the violence that you may see as a form of entertainment, I guess it's gotten to a point now where it's not entertainment anymore. It's a set of instructions for some people. But there needs to be a line of demarcation in which we tell people that stuff's not real. This is not how you're supposed to live your life. Because the people that make the music, that make the movies, they don't do those things. Y'all know that. Very rarely do they. I was a huge fan, still am a fan of Tupac. Big fan of Notorious B.I.G. Biggie, huge fan. They're dead because they live that life. It doesn't end well, is what I'm trying to say. And so I am hoping that as we continue to move forward and prepare for the next event, because there's going to be another one, that we think with a conscience about who we put in elected office. Because now there's a new standard, which I think every official must meet. Are they willing to do something, the bare minimum, to make it more difficult for the wrong people to obtain firearms? That's number one. But the public has a responsibility too. If you own firearms, lock them up. Be careful about storing them in your car. If you're going to open carry or conceal carry, you have to be extra vigilant. There's a number of stories over the years where a person who was armed legally, they own a gun, they're a gun owner, and they have it in public. They're concealing or they are open carrying, where somebody steals their gun from them and shoots them with their gun. How embarrassing is that? But I don't know if people who carry think about that, because you're so arrogant and you have so much confidence because you are in fact armed. You don't think for a second that somebody can take your gun. I got into it with a person whose name I'm not going to mention. As you can imagine, I've been in many an argument in my life. And there used to be people, Vaughn might know who these people are. Well, I know he knows. They would do patrols in the neighborhoods because clearly the police can't protect anybody, so they would just do neighborhood patrols in the black community, of course. And they had long guns. If you're not familiar with a firearm, an AR-15, a Bushmaster, or an AK-47 style rifle is extremely intimidating. And so you have people that believe they were doing the right thing by patrolling neighborhoods with their firearms, because I don't know if they saw something bad happen, they were going to start shooting. I don't know. But a lot of mothers who lost children or relatives to gun violence, I don't remember hearing from any men or any dads, but a lot of moms said, I don't want these people walking around in my neighborhood with these guns because I lost a child or a loved one to gun violence. And they didn't realize in the good they thought they were doing by patrolling, they didn't at all realize that they were traumatizing people who had lost loved ones to gun violence. And then there was another person who was in that group of patrollers, I'll call them, that went to Walmart with her long gun strapped to her back, and she talked about, oh, it was no problem, and everybody respected me. Like, that's ridiculous. That's ridiculous as a society, to where we think we need a weapon of war to go to Walmart. It's insane. Like, when is sanity going to rule again? I likely will do more of these broadcasts now that I have this platform back up and running. Those of you that participated with me throughout the pandemic, this is my only way to broadcast. But during the day, as some of you know, I'm on 101.7 The Truth from 10 a.m. until 1 p.m. Monday through Friday. We had a great discussion today. Took a lot of telephone calls. We got a lot of text messages. Everybody seems to agree. Black, white, multiracial, liberal, conservative, everybody agreed that we have to do something. We just need elected leaders to know that they can act, they can do something, and they won't risk losing their positions or making anybody upset if they decide to move in the direction of more sensible gun control. Thank you, guys. I'm going to play my intro because I have an intro now and I'm very proud of it. It's got explosions in it. I'll see you guys next time.